Hello, dear friends. So this morning began with various news from different areas, not just from the front lines. For example, there was a strike on Kiev. It's reported that Iskander missiles were used, with Ukrainian sources claiming 4 impacts. Photos have also emerged, which you can see here, showing smoke, meaning there were hits, although the exact locations have not yet been disclosed. Additionally, today we'll be discussing the withdrawal of Ukrainian forces from Kurakhove, specifically from the Kurakhove pocket to the south, as well as the attacks on Zaporizhzhia. We'll talk about all of this in detail. Yesterday, I also conducted a video survey, which gathered over 700 comments on whether Ukrainians desire peace or the continuation of the war. 99% expressed a desire for peace, coming from various regions across Ukraine. I think that's telling. Meanwhile, the presidential office claims that 65% of Ukrainians want to keep fighting or are willing to continue, but make of it what you will. So, let's get started by opening the map. We'll begin with Kurakhove and then discuss the Ukrainian armed forces movement from the southern pocket and the Russian forces' attacks in the Zaporizhzhia direction. Yesterday evening, reports from Ukrainian sources specifically highlighted that 3 territorial defense brigades had withdrawn from Kurakhove, and it didn't stop there. They're also withdrawing other units. Today, even Bild's military observer Julian Rubka and the Ukrainian analytical resource Deep State, which analyzes maps and advances on both sides, are sounding the alarm. Let's take a closer look at what's happening here, step by step. First, yesterday we discussed the night battles around the Roya railway station. Russian assault units broke through to the station, with fighting raging all night. In the end, the station came under Russian control. Here's where it's located. The offensive within the city hasn't stopped. On the contrary, it has intensified and accelerated. Both yesterday and this morning, the Russian army launched mechanized attacks near school number 3, deploying infantry there. The capture of the railway station has allowed the offensive to advance toward the school. We need to understand that both the railway station and the school are concrete buildings used as strongpoints. So the fact that both strongpoints were captured in just a day might suggest a shortage of manpower or a lack of motivation among the Ukrainian forces defending Kurakhove. Now let's look at the area and distance. A week ago, Russian units entered the eastern outskirts of Kurakhove. Now they are near school number 3. Quite rapid progress, right? Over the past 2 days, Russian forces advanced 1,240 meters within the city. Kurakhove itself is divided into 3 parts: the eastern part, the central part, and the industrial zone. The eastern part is almost entirely under Russian control, and by cautious estimates, Russian control over Kurakhove stands at 15%, or measured another way, 13 square kilometers. Now, let's move south of Kurakhove. Yesterday evening, the Ukrainian armed forces began withdrawing from territory that has found itself in operational encirclement. Take a look. This whole area isn't yet marked red on the map, but it's likely to be marked in the next day or 2. What happened here was a breakthrough to Dalny, and not just a breakthrough, but its capture, which led to the operational encirclement of several settlements to the south of Dalny itself. Here they are. Look, Yelizavetovka, Ilinka, Romanovka, and Anovka. The Ukrainian armed forces in this situation had only one option, which was to retreat toward Konstantinopolsk to avoid encirclement and prevent the pincers from closing in on them, which is what they are doing now. Consequently, all 5 settlements, along with the surrounding area, will likely come under Russian control in the very near future, today or at the latest, the day after tomorrow. Now moving on to the offensive in the Zaporizhzhia region. The publication The Economist reported that the Russian army is preparing to advance on Zaporizhzhia city. Ukrainian intelligence informed them of this. Indeed, the escalation has begun, and it's worth noting that Russian units have had some success in this direction. To begin with, Russian aviation launched 2 waves of attacks yesterday, mainly targeting areas within Zaporizhzhia as well as the frontline Ukrainian armed forces positions. About 40 guided bombs were dropped over the course of the day, which is significant. In addition, there is ongoing assault activity near the town of Huliaipol, here on the map. Russian forces have reportedly advanced 2 kilometers, although there is no information yet on entering the town itself. Now let's look at Makarivka. This village was previously under Russian control, but during the summer counter-offensive in 2023, it came under Ukrainian control. As of November 2024, it has returned to Russian control, according to Ukrainian sources, and there are now photos from Makarivka with the Russian flag. Moving further west, the Russian army has had even more significant territorial gains near the town of Ravnopil, where an advance of 3 kilometers was achieved. This move was carried out across open fields, with fighting initially breaking out on the outskirts, and then, in less than 12 hours, Ukrainian forces retreated, leaving Ravnopil under Russian control. Notably, the road to Zaporizhzhia lies just over 4 kilometers from Ravnopil, providing logistical support for Velika Novosilka. Given that the settlement is also being approached from the east, any further advance in this direction would place Velika Novosilka in a pincer. Furthermore, an advance is underway toward the neighboring village of Novodarivka, with movement from the southwest, specifically from Livadne. As a result, Novodarivka is now effectively caught between two fronts, setting the stage for its encirclement. It's essential to note that despite reports in Western media, we're not yet seeing a large-scale offensive on Zaporizhzhia. What's happening now is more of a probing attack or reconnaissance in force. However, the concentration of troops and the formation of a strike force indicate that the intensity of Russian offensive actions in this direction is likely to increase. Strike on facilities of the 5th Separate Assault Brigade of the Ukrainian Armed Forces in Druzhkovka. On November 12, 2024, at about 1500 hours, Russian troops carried out precise strikes on temporary deployment sites and logistics points of the 5th Separate Assault Brigade of the Ukrainian Armed Forces in industrial areas in Druzhkovka, causing significant damage to the infrastructure and equipment of the Ukrainian Armed Forces. First strike, warehouses and equipment on the territory of the Greta Enterprise. The main strikes fell on the territory of the Greta Enterprise, where the enemy had organized a storage facility for military cargo and a parking lot for trucks. As a result of the strike, 2 large warehouses were completely destroyed, inside which various supplies were located, including specialized technical means and equipment of Western manufacture. According to preliminary data, the lost property of the Ukrainian Armed Forces includes components and tools for servicing armored vehicles, generators for field conditions, a large number of spare parts for mobile armored vehicles and heavy trucks. The destruction of these objects seriously disrupts the logistics of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, since it was here that resources for the prompt supply of the lines of combat contact were stored. Second strike, repair base at the Druzhkovka machine building plant. The second strike hit a warehouse and repair shop at the Druzhkovka machine building plant. On this territory, the Ukrainian Armed Forces created a transfer point and repair base, where armored vehicles damaged at the front were restored or prepared for further transportation to rear repair bases. According to updated data, the strike destroyed and seriously damaged 12 units of equipment, including Onsilla and M113 combat armored vehicles, specialized machines and equipment for repairing armored vehicles, 3 trucks with reinforced trailers designed for transporting heavy equipment. At Kurakhove district, Russian army recaptured again the eastern part of Novoivanovka and approached to the adjacent Leonidovo. At Sudzhansky district, during the last 48 hours, Russian army made significant advances west of Borki, taking control over a series of positions along Psel River and recaptured 75% of the locality of Plekovo. At Kurakhove district, Russian army recaptured again the eastern part of Novoivanovka and approached to the adjacent Leonidovo. At Sudzhansky district, during the last 48 hours, Russian army made significant advances west of Borki, taking control over a series of positions along Psel River and recaptured 75% of the locality of Plekovo.